I have pretty lofty goals for the episode today. I may not be able to meet everything that I want to do because there are several farms that I need to get created into this world. I'm sick of farming everything up manually. It is time to automate. And now that we've safely made it back from the Nether, I have the resources we need to do just that. What farms do you guys first automate in your world when you're getting going and really ramping up? I've been debating which ones to do first and which ones to include in the episode today. We'll see where I get to. You probably know the answer to this question already because you've seen the title and thumbnail, but I don't yet. I'm just going to make as many farms as I can get going during this week. The first farm I decided to put together was a sugarcane farm, and I did this because I really feel like it grows slow and it would be nice to have it going while I worked on the other farms. I also decided to put it together over by the college because I use the paper most frequently over with the librarians, so that was just mostly convenience. I've built this farm so many times I didn't have to pull up a tutorial, but that also means that if you want to do it yourself, I would definitely recommend doing just that. There are so many YouTube tutorials on sugarcane farms, you should be able to find one super fast and easy. The next farm I decided on was a wheat farm, and this works by having a couple villagers that try and trade the wheat back and forth with other villagers, and then you kind of catch the trade as it goes. And I really have only made this once before, so I definitely recommend a tutorial on it. The tricky part about this farm is that it seems to work well sometimes and it doesn't work well other times, and you put the villager in the middle for some reason, and I don't know why. For me this time, I took the villager out of the middle of the farm and I just had the two villagers trading back and forth to each other, and then it worked really well, and now it's producing a ton of wheat. Wheat farms are great for bread, which allows you to breed up more villagers, but mostly I want a ton of wheat so that I can add it into my mud and make packed mud and packed mud bricks to build with. I might be wrong, but I think the problems that I was experiencing with this farm design is that my villagers were already doing trades and were set up before I put them into the farm. It might work better if you just have fresh villagers plopped straight in. A link to the tutorial I used is in the description, but I really changed this farm quite a bit before it got to working the way that I wanted it to in my world. Farm number 3 is a mud farm, and I also put this over in the college town. This was a build for build that I did from an Ilmangu tutorial, and it works amazing. I'm not even going to show you what I was looking like building it because I just was pausing the YouTube video over and over again to get everything in place. One way or another, it's perfect. 10 out of 10, recommend. I started building up the iron farm over here in the college town, and it was really nice because as I was working and trading with villagers in the area, it was doing all of its iron making. But I decided in the end that this is probably not where I wanted the iron farm to go, and I ended up taking it all back down so that I could build it back up over in the homestead. I've watched a lot of videos on the mechanics of an iron farm, and this is the design that I've sort of tweaked and settled on for myself, and probably the farm I have built the most in all of my Minecraft time because it's just so useful and pretty easy to put together. The concepts are super basic. You put beds with villagers in a box, and you make sure the only place that an iron golem can spawn is right above their heads, where it pushes off to the side into a little bit of lava and into a chest. There's so many tutorials that'll show you how to do this, and I highly recommend doing an iron farm because it is very useful and very easy. The next farm is a little controversial, so I decided to put it under the barn and buried it deep down underground because it is a cow farm, better known as a cow crusher. It takes a ton of time to get the cows that you want down in and breed them up so that it gets going, but the cow crusher basically works that you feed the cows and then they give you their stuff back because there's too many cows in one spot. This is where it's good to remember that it's a video game and no cows are being harmed in the making of this video. The zombie spawner I made in the last episode is working really well. It's perfect for XP, but as I have all the stuff that comes off of the zombies, I like to smelt it up and make it into usable resources. For that, I need fuel, so I've decided to make a lava farm over here by the zombie spawner. This is a really simple farm. You use dripstone blocks. You have to make sure it's an actual dripstone block, dripstone coming down from it, and then up above you put the lava and it just drips down into the cauldrons and collects from time to time. This is a really good way to have fuel right by wherever it is that you need it, and it'll be nice to have lava available in the world anytime I decide that I want it. Next up is a glow lichen farm. This isn't a complicated farm, but I made the whole situation complicated for myself because I decided I wanted to put it in one of these silos, which is an extremely small space, but it's also an extremely small farm, so I was hopeful. After getting the main structure of it put together, too much of it was on the outside and it just wasn't fitting right, so I had to take it all down and push it back one spot further into the silo. This worked pretty well. I was able to get the whole entire farm up and going. There was a couple side backs. When you look at the back of the silo, you can actually see some of the redstone and the dispenser, but this is, actually good. You see, I need to be able to put bone meal in the dispenser on a regular basis, and this makes it really easy to get to. So I just used a little bit of grass to cover up the rest of the redstone, and voila! All of a sudden, I have a glow lichen farm inside of one of my silos. Now, I wonder what could go in the other silo. Not very many farms are this small, so if you can think of another farm that would be small enough to go in the other silo, let me know, because I think that could actually be super fun. This is currently how I'm harvesting my wool for building. I'm thinking we should do something about that. Farm number 8 is probably the biggest of the episode. I am putting together a sheep farm, and I thought about doing just a couple of sheep or a couple white sheep and dyeing the wool later, but instead I wanted to go all out and do a sheep of every color. In fact, to make the room balance off for the build, I have 2 white ones and then 1 of all the other colors. And they're in this one big, huge build that I still want to be a barn build so that it fits in with the homestead style. Getting all the sheep moved over and set into place, of course, is a task, but not too big of a deal. And then there's a rail that goes all the way under all of the sheep, so it picks everything up and drops it into a central chest, so it's really easy to access and get to. My goal for the week is to get as many farms in place as possible, but not necessarily to make them cute or attractive farms. But now that I finished this sheep farm, I just can't help myself. I think we will put together a build. love the way the wool farm turned out, and I want to show you inside. All the sheep lined up and they're labeled with whatever color they are because you can't see it most of the time, and they go in color order down both sides and even in the back. But the center of the room is where you collect all the wool, and then there's a chest for each color, all colorful and rainbow-like, and this type of organization makes me really happy. Not only that, but we have at least 2 stacks of every single color that came out just during the time when I was working on the wool farm. So it's going to be super productive and we're going to have everything we need. I'm heading into my house right now for some dye. You see, I've got a couple signposts that I've put up in the area. Now that we're growing and the homestead has more buildings, I think it officially needs a name. I put a signpost up down here at the intersection and you will see I've officially named this Brighton Homestead. I think it's such a happy and cheerful name, and so it seemed perfect for this homestead we're putting together. So then, of course, the other direction here is going to be the Brighton Sheep Barn. Down the path a little bit is going to be Seaboard College. Seaboard, of course, means near the sea, which is perfect because it's right by the big seawall and the docks. Now I'm so excited to put these up. I think we should finish naming everything. Down the path, the other direction, is a little pond. I come and fish in this pond. Well, actually, mostly I get the squid to get the squid ink out of it. But I think that this should be Bluet Pond. You see, there's a ton of these azure bluets that are all around the area, and it seems natural to me. When my people settled near this pond, the azure bluets inspired them. So, Bluet Pond became the official name. It makes sense to me that the cave that's literally on Bluet Pond would be Bluet Cave. It's super common for things in real life to be named similarly. Now, up the hill is Glory Point Tower. This is the very first place that the people came when they looked out over the valley and saw where they wanted to build the homestead. And so the tower should have a place of honor. Therefore, Glory Point. I finally got a cactus from a wandering trader, and so this was perfect. All the villagers that were in the little shed here on the property were moved up into what I think is now the water tower, which of course is the iron farm that we put together. That means that this little building is empty, and it seems like the perfect size for a cactus farm, so that's what I put in place. I don't have any need for cactus as decoration, so the main purpose of this cactus farm is just so that I can get cactus to smelt up and become green dye. I also don't need a ton of it, although I have a build in mind for the future that we're going to need a lot of green dye for, but we've already got green wool going, and I think it's going to be perfectly fine to have this cute little farm in place. Saving up, for future designs. I let the cactus farm run for a little while, and then I realized I had the fence posts in the wrong spot, so I moved them over and gave it some more time, and now it's working perfect. It doesn't need to be the fastest farm in the world. These 6 are gonna do fine for me. With 9 farms down, it seems like it would be a shame not to get one more good farm in for the week. But let's make it something really cool. I love using moss, but I harvest it manually, so I want to do a moss farm. I've never done one before, but I found a tutorial by Chapman. It looks a little complicated, but I'm going to give it a shot. moss farm I used for this build is so efficient. And you know what? It's not that big. If we pop in the door here, you'll see it definitely looks more like a warehouse type of thing going on in here. But all I have to do is flip the switch. The bone mill in the system automatically produces everything that comes from a moss block and drops it in the chest over here for me, and I don't have to do anything but sit here and collect everything and feed it bone meal from time to time, which is so cool. While I was putting this building together, I was thinking about what the upstairs might look like, and I've decided that this is going to be staff quarters. You see, the homestead is growing like crazy, a new sheep farm and the bone meal farm. Obviously I would need some help. You can see here there is room for 4 beds in this room, plus really good area to chill, table, kitchen space, workstation type of area, but there's also a little bedroom in the back, which is probably for the quartermaster or the manager of everything. I love using all the mop heads to kind of create decorations of one sort or another. Of course, they represent different things depending on where they're at, but in general, this build was so fun to put together. With that, the episode is complete, and I managed to put together 10 new farms, which is going to make building so much faster in the future. So this was a very productive week. Thank you all for being here. Consider liking and subscribing if you'd like to continue following the channel for the series, and I hope you all have the best Minecraft day.